Over at DC Comics, I really love it when a story is able to be coherent, especially a big crossover event story that has so much writing on it. Thankfully, I think one of DC's latest events over in the Batman universe, Lazarus Planet, has had so much context and narrative buildup that I feel like there is actually something to be had with this story. It all started towards the end of Batman when father and son were battling over the mysterious manipulations of the devil Nezha. And during their fight, the Lazarus Island volcano erupted, causing in the Lazarus resin to spread throughout the DC universe. This resin has caused some familiar characters to gain new powers. My name is Ariko Braddock, and today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton #1 to see how the Lazarus resin is starting to spread throughout Superman's supporting cast. But before we dive deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy our content. And while you're here, please go ahead and hit that like button. Without further ado, I want to introduce the context behind Lazarus Planet by reading DC Comics' solicitation for the event. With the world in chaos and Lazarus raining from the skies, the Earth's protectors from Krypton are hit hard. In this collection of epic vignettes from in and around Lazarus Planet, we'll see heroes transform, secrets revealed, and power unleashed. Can Power Girl free herself from the out-of-control Omen? Will Dreamer's visions guide our heroes to the paths of victory? Can Mercy Graves survive the transformation she's undergone? And will Jonathan Kent ever be the same again? So I want to introduce the creative team on this issue, but there's actually a big 4 stories in this collection, so we'll just go ahead and take it case by case. However, to get our review started, I want to introduce the cover for Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton, illustrated by David Marquez and Alejandro Sanchez. Here's a look at the cover for the issue, and big thanks to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting this cover. We are going to go ahead and start things off by talking a little bit about the Dreamer story in the collection. The Dreamer story is called Gone Dark. It's written by Nicole Maines, illustrated by Skyler Patridge, colored by Nick Filardi, and lettered by Andworld's Morgan Martinez. So first off, I love Skyler Patridge's approach to this story in terms of the art. The art in this issue kind of really kept me guessing because there's so many seeming like styles that Partridge switches between, like on the comic book page. If you take a look at this page we're looking at over on the preview, I love how Dreamer is essentially saying the name of the story as a speech balloon in the last page. And I love how kind of Dreamer's face on this panel also is a little bit more nuanced and has a little bit more detail as opposed to, like this panel with Robin. So it's good that Partridge is able to embellish certain aspects of the issue when, the writing essentially calls for it. I think Nicole Maines' script for this issue was actually one of the best I've ever seen from Maines, period. The way that this, series essentially takes advantage of kind of Dreamer's connection to like the psychic and magic elements of the DC universe and ties it in with Dr. Fate, Khalid Nasser, and some of those other moments of the series is just wonderful. And again, I just love the ambition that Nicole Maines has kind of throughout the story. It's Nicole Maines and Skyler Patridge must have spent time with DC's editorial crafting this story because it just feels like so essential to the overall nature of the Lazarus Planet event, as there's one kind of key aspect of the issue that'll definitely kind of influence and leave an impact on other stories here. Also, the colors from Nick Filardi in this chapter are wonderful and really gorgeous. They kind of flesh out the characters. The last page of the Gone Dark story as well hits such kind of like a solid emotional climax, and between like all the other kind of narrative pieces showing an important part of the Lazarus Planet event being like wrapped up in this first story, I really think that even though a sort of shorter chapter in the issue, that this is like a can't miss story out of like all 4 chapters here. I think this is one of the very best in the collection, and such a great way to tie Dreamer into the rest of the DC universe and show off one of DC's newer characters in a different context. Let's go ahead and talk about the next story in the collection. It's called Electric, written by C.S. Pacat, illustrated by Scott Godlewski, colored from Alex Guimaraes, and lettered from Andworld Design. Now, I was actually pretty excited about this part of the issue because I am really curious to see how Jonathan Kent gets his electric blue Superman powers. And I love kind of the homage to Superman's blue electric era. This is essentially a story where we see kind of Superman meeting up with character and just kind of seeing like their reactions to each other. We see them kind of fight crime together in the story. And I wanted something more out of this. I wanted a deeper emotional connection between Jonathan and the character that he meets in this issue. And I wanted something a little bit stronger, or just something that felt a little bit more tied into the Lazarus Planet event. The Dreamer story, Gone Dark, felt like it was a key piece of the collection. And I feel like this Electric story is really only focused on fleshing out the character of Jonathan Kent. I do enjoy the tone of this series. I think it does a really good job touching on kind of what Tom Taylor has established for the Jonathan Kent character in some of his solo work with the hero. Artist Scott Godlewski, I think, does such a good job kind of living up to the Superman artists on the Jonathan Kent book, with crafting a really kind of nimble Jonathan Kent, who is really kind of like emoting and expressing on nearly every page of the story. This kind of story needs like a different, more stylized set of pencils. And I think DC found just a wonderful artist that was able to rise up to the occasion here. At the end of the day, I just wish there was a little bit more context or a little bit more tie in to the greater Lazarus Planet event. But Electric, I don't think, is by no means a bad story. It's just not the most exciting stories in the collection. Let's go ahead and talk about the next title. And the next story in the collection is called Breakthrough. This one is written by Frank Barbiere, penciled by Sami Basri, inked by Basri and Vicente Cifuentes, colored by Hi-Fi, and lettered by Dave Sharpe. I had a great time with this Breakthrough story. It's really mostly a story centered around Lex Luthor and Mercy Graves, his assistant. Mercy Graves goes through quite the character arc that is directly influenced from the Lazarus resin. So I really appreciate how consistent DC's editorial is kind of tracking all the stories in this collection, even though they are included in the same collection. They're just such like large and vast parts of the DC universe that I'm glad that, DC does appear to be planning this out across, the Superman line of characters and not just with one individual book. So I really appreciated that here. There's really great back and forth in this Breakthrough story written by Frank Barbiere between Mercy and Lex. Lex keeps questioning Mercy and isn't able to listen to him, despite the fact that her information is exactly what Lex needs at the time, because he has no idea what is going on in the pages of Batman versus Robin or the Lazarus Planet one-shots. He could really use some of those issues, as a matter of fact. So I really did enjoy this story. It's a little bit more violent and dark, which you'd probably expect with the character of Lex Luthor. Some of the art in the issue is just gorgeous. I love it when kind of Mercy goes through her transformation. I love how she's depicted. There's really strong facial expressions in this story, and there's just a lot here. I'm really excited to see kind of what DC comic carries these plot points forward next. The last story in the collection is called Deus Ex Magicka. It's written by Leah Williams, illustrated by Marguerite Sauvage, and lettered by Becca Carey. This story was really kind of threw me for a loop. It really kind of focuses on Power Girl and her character in particular. I really am not kind of incredibly well read on Power Girl, and I think it made this issue even more of a treat. The artwork from Marguerite Sauvage is so incredibly stylized and evokes such a strong tone with these characters. I particularly enjoy seeing Sauvage draw female characters and getting kind of the introduction of this omen individual in the context of this story through like a psychic lens was a great way to kind of experience this story firsthand. I love that Power Girl becomes aware of kind of how strong she is psychically, and I think that kind of the magical ethereal aspects of the Lazarus Planet event are perfectly captured through kind of like the abstract nature of this story. So I really enjoyed kind of the direction and focus of adapting Power Girl to kind of like a telepathic dark magic DC influenced storyline. So those are my thoughts over on Lazarus Planet. I think this is a really fantastic issue with so many stories that really do seem to drive the Lazarus Planet event forward kind of inch by inch with each individual title. I want to know what were some of your favorite stories in the collection? Did you like the Gone Dark story as much as I did? I want you to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking out this video, and we're going to be back really soon covering everything Lazarus Planet and kind of future issues of Batman versus Robin.